Secretary Kerry, truly thank you for being here today, and thank you for the many, many, many miles you've put on airplanes traveling around the world. Your service is greatly appreciated. I want to go back to what Senator Leahy brought up a little earlier on the President's 2017 budget request on the Global Climate Initiative and Green Climate Fund, about $1 billion. This request exacerbates the tension between highly industrialized nations that are concerned with leaving a legacy through environmental stewardship and developing nations that are concerned with obtaining better access to affordable energy and strengthening energy security. I'm concerned that such efforts could marginalize sources of energy, like oil, like coal, that could empower lives and provide opportunities around the globe. For example, India is building 2.5 more times coal-fired electrical capacity than we will lose here in the next few years. China is building a new coal-fired plant every 10 days for the next 10 years. I managed operations in Japan during the Great Sendai quake of March of 2011 and watched how they responded to losing their nuclear capacity with the Fukushima reactors now taken out of service. They're replacing that with 43 coal-fired plants. The U.S. Energy Information Administration is expecting Africa to increase its coal use by 70% in the coming decades. By any way you look at coal globally in the next 30, 40 years, the consumption is going up. Now, speaking as a Montanan who believes very much in all of the above energy portfolio, we uniquely have hydro. In fact, I'm glad to see in the energy bill, we're actually going to redefine hydro now as renewable, which only Washington, D.C. would not define hydro as renewable. It will now be a renewable when we pass the energy bill. Wind, other forms of energy, I'm a strong advocate. But I think it's imperative to recognize coal is not going away, and it provides an essential source of low-cost energy for hundreds of millions of people, some 1.3 billion poor people who don't have electricity today. When available to developing nations, Montana's clean coal, I think, strikes the balance between low-cost energy and high-quality air. And for the record, Montana has more recoverable coal deposits than any other state in the nation. My question, Mr. Secretary, and truly trying to strike a balance here, as one who's been referred to as the conservative conservationist back home in Montana, who would love to spend days backpacking above 10,000 feet and fly fishing, and we embrace clean water and clean air, and it's who we are as Montanans. But does the administration recognize that coal is going to provide energy security and economic opportunities in the U.S. and, importantly, across the globe for decades to come?
Well, first of all, Senator, let me just say to you, I'm jealous because Montana is indeed one of the most beautiful states in our country, and it's a great, they're a great outdoors ethic up there. I understand the tension on the coal issue, and we are indeed going to see coal being used. We're going to see oil being pumped and gas being pumped for years to come. The question is, how is it going to be burned? How is it going to be used? The administration is very supportive of advancing clean coal through carbon capture, storage, sequestration, et cetera. And we know it's going to be, it's an energy of choice for some countries because they can't afford anything else. It's cheap. It's very cheap. And until recently, solar and wind weren't able to be competitive, though now they are increasingly competitive. And so people are going to start to make, I think, a different set of choices over a period of time. If this new solar advancement that I've learned about with respect to an American company that is much more distributable and cheaper and more effective works, that's going to begin to become an energy source of choice for people. What we have to recognize, unfortunately, is, that untreated, that is to say, without the latest technologies of whatever scrubber combination, et cetera, there is, burning coal releases one of the dirtiest, most concentrated CO2 emission sources.
Yeah, just one, if I could, one thought there. We certainly has been a fair amount of debate on the Clean Power Plan.
Right.
Supreme Court certainly has stepped in with their stay. But when they've run those regulations through the EPA's algorithm, which is called MAGIC, what it spit out on the other end was a 0.02 degree impact centigrade on global temperatures between now and 2100. And so we've quantified the impact of these regulations as it relates to the climate as negligible. I would argue 0.02 degrees centigrade is negligible. But we also have quantified, I can just tell you in Montana, 7,000 jobs, $140 million tax revenues that go to teachers and schools, double-digit increases in electrical prices. And these are Indian tribal jobs, these are union jobs, and this is what the world is still moving very much towards a coal-driven environment as it relates to producing electricity. And I appreciate the comment you made about not ceding leadership as it relates to clean energy technology. I think that was a good point you made earlier. My concern is, are we going to cede leadership in developing clean coal technologies by virtually killing this industry, which is what we're finding out these regulations will do? We're unilaterally withdrawing in terms of developing, innovating clean coal technologies when we only comprise about 10% of the world's coal consumption. But by shutting down the U.S. coal industry, besides raising prices and having an affordable source of energy, we're now going to cede that to the Chinese, to India, to others, perhaps Africa, which I think from a global environmental stewardship viewpoint is a mistake.
Well, increasingly, I understand your argument. Increasingly, those other countries are coming under pressure to change their own mix and to deal with the problem. This is becoming a huge problem in China. Their citizens are up in arms over this issue. They've literally had days where they have to shut down their industry as a result of the level of pollution. And that's one of the reasons why China joined with us in making this move towards clean alternative energy. Now, yeah, nobody's going to shut down their economy. This is the danger for all of us. And therefore, we ought to be moving. I've always supported major efforts for clean coal technology investment, and we ought to be trying to lead on that. If we could discover how to do that, that would be superb.
Yeah, the watch out on this one is, I think the message that industry is hearing from the Obama administration is that they're really pulling the rug out from underneath this industry. And they're unwilling to make the investments that's going to take to get there. And I hope for more dialogue here of trying to maintain a balanced all-the-above portfolio to make sure we keep base load on the grid, given that we have a nation that still depends about 30 to 35% of our electrical demand comes from coal.
Yeah. I think the administration's position has been very clear that if we're going to be serious about holding climate change to somewhere within the range of the 2 degrees, which we're already above centigrade, and avoiding the worst impacts of climate change, we have to move more dramatically to shift into renewable alternative sources. And we're pushing other countries to do that, and that's why the president made the decision about not publicly financing a coal that doesn't have carbon capture and sequestration or isn't literally clean. And nobody has yet shown me how you, in fact, burn coal clean relative to other possibilities today.
Yeah, and I guess I hope too, we always talk about the science and looking at what the MAGIC algorithm put out, that it was literally a negligible impact, 0.02 degrees centigrade.
What is the level, though? I don't know what's
That's moving forward with the proposed
with the U.S.
power rate. Correct, with the U.S.
Yeah. But see, the problem is
Right.
not just the U.S. The U.S. could do what it does and be completely wiped out by India and China in any changes that we make if they don't see us also making efforts to try to change.
The pie chart's very compelling. It's 10% of the coal, plus or minus, that's consumed is in the U.S., and 90% everywhere else. I guess and I'm out of time, but my hope would be that as we look at where we're spending our dollars as it relates to foreign efforts, is that we try to maintain a balance and ensure that we're creating incentives to invest in clean coal technology, which is going to be, coal's going to be around the world here for decades to come. I think we need to accept that and incentivize innovation, and the U.S. can probably lead better than anybody else in that regard. But the current policies right now, I think, are going to shut the industry down in the next several years.
My recommendation, Senator, is, I'd love to get together with Ernie Moniz and John Holdren. Have you met with them?
I was with Ernie last week in Alaska, in fact. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sure you talked about this.
Yeah, and look forward to more conversation. And I'm out of time here, so I don't want to.
Well, it's worth, you know.
But it's a good, thoughtful conversation around, I think, where the world's headed and how we can truly be environmental stewards here and be smart here, at the same time addressing the fact there's 1.3 billion people who don't have electricity.
Senator Durbin.